So number 13, you got to read the instructions up here that are both for 12 and 13. It says the equation of the line, write the equation of the line that passes through the given point. So they give you a point and they tell you that it's parallel to the given equation. All right, so we need to understand what parallel means. So parallel means same slope, right? So they give you an equation, this equation right here, your equation is going to have the same slope as this guy, all right? They do want you to write it in slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Now, in order for you to write it in slope-intercept form, you need to know your m value and your b value, okay? So they indirectly give you the slope, and in the bottom case on number 13, you could clearly see that your slope is 5/3. Okay, so your slope is 5/3, and your b value you don't know, not yet. Okay, so on the previous video I already explained number 12, which was a lot more challenging. I'm just going to scratch it out so we don't get confused with that. So far I know that my slope is 5/3, and my b value, I need to find my b value. How am I going to do that? I want to take the x value of -5 and the y value of 2, and I could either plug it into point slope form, or I could use y equals mx plus b. It's up to you. What do you guys prefer? To use point slope form and then change it to slope intercept, or use slope intercept to find the b value and then write it as slope intercept? The first one, point slope. Okay, so point slope is, there's point slope form, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. And of course we're getting the x1, y1 from the coordinate xy, -5, 2. And we already found our slope. Our slope was 5/3. We don't even care about the rest of this equation. Who cares? We already got our m value of 5/3. So if I were to plug in my values, I'll have y minus what? 2 equals 5/3, the m value, 5/3, x minus -5. And what happens with the minus minus? Plus plus. So there's my point slope form, but they're not asking for point slope. They want us to write it in slope intercept. So you could change this to slope intercept by, first of all, distributing the 5/3, or you could temporarily get rid of the fraction 5/3 by multiplying everything by 3. It's up to you. If you decide to multiply by 3 to temporarily get rid of the fraction, go for it. You'll end up with 3y minus 6 cancels equals 5 parentheses x plus 5. And then you'd have to distribute the 5 to both terms and get 5x plus 25. So let me rewrite this thing. Because it's in point slope form and they want it in slope intercept, you're going to have 3y minus 6 equals 5x plus 25. Now, of course, we want to get y by itself to get in slope-intercept form. All we did was distribute the 5 to get from here to here. So now at this point, let's get the y by itself. We're going to add 6. Add 6. You're going to have 3y equals 5x plus 31. Then you'd have to divide by 3, divide by 3, divide by 3. So your final answer, I'm going to write it up here, is y equals 5/3 x plus 31 over 3. That's disgusting, but that's the answer. Number 14, solving the systems of equations. You could solve by graphing if you wanted to. It's not the best method. I don't recommend it. You could use substitution, or you could rearrange things to use elimination method, linear combinations method. In this case, because I have y by itself, I want to choose to use substitution. I want to take the -3x plus 7 and plug it into the other equation in place of y. So I want to take this guy and put it right here in place of y. So my equation is not really going to change. It's still going to be 8x. It's still going to be minus 6y. But instead of y, I want to put parentheses, and it's still going to say equals 10. So inside those parentheses, we're going to plug in the negative 3x plus 7 that we're substituting in. Now, of course, we could distribute. We're going to distribute the minus 6 times negative 3x. That becomes positive 18x. And positive 6 times 7, that's negative 42. Of course, we're going to bring down everything else. The 8x right here. Bring down the 10, the equals 10. And now we're going to combine like terms. We're going to have 8x plus 18x. That's a total of 26x minus 42 equals 10. Wow, this is ugly. Then what? Add 42. Add 42. We're going to end up with 26x equals 52. And luckily, when we divide by 26 and divide by 26, we get the answer x equals what? 2. Yay? So we have one answer. All we have to do is plug it into any equation of the original to find the other. So if I plug in my value of 2 into the top one, it's going to say y equals negative 3 times what I'm substituting 2 plus 7. So that's going to be negative 6 plus 7. So y really equals what? Y equals 1. Negative 6 plus 7 is 1. So as a coordinate, the answer to number 14 is 2, 1. If you wanted to double check it, simply take your x value of 2, plug it in, take your y value of 1, plug it in, see if it gives you a true statement, which it will. Take your x value of 2, plug it in for x, take the y value of 1, plug it in for y, and see if it gives you a true statement. It really does give you 10. So that's the way to do that one with substitution. Now number 15, I wouldn't substitute because there's no letter by itself unless you obtain a letter by itself. Or you could simply rearrange everything, write both of them in standard form, ax plus by equals c, and then worry about canceling x's or y's. It's up to you. So what do you guys say? Do you want to get a letter by itself and use substitution? Or do you want to rearrange both equations to get them both in standard form to get things to cancel out? What do you guys think? To do elimination method, you need them both in standard form, ax plus by equals c. So when you have this equals 4, that one's easy because you could just write the equals 4 on this side. And that's exactly what I want to do. X minus 6y equals 4. So far so good? Okay, so now that one's in standard form. The other one, it's almost in standard form. All I got to do is subtract the 36, and then I need to subtract 2y, and subtract 2y. So I know this, maybe it's a little too confusing to do two steps in one. Let me do one at a time here. So check it out. When I subtract 36 on both sides, I'll end up with 5x equals, because that cancels, 2y minus 36. And to move the 2y over, I'm going to subtract 2y. That'll cancel out. Subtract 2y. So you're going to end up with a new standard form equation that reads 5x minus 2y equals negative 36. Whew, that's a lot of stuff. Now this is barely our system in standard form, and now we could start worrying about canceling out either x's or y's. What do you say? Cancel out x's or y's? Y's. I need this to become what if I wanted to cancel with a negative 6y? Positive 6. How do I change the negative 2 to a positive 6? Times negative 3. Only the bottom one by negative 3. So the top one's going to stay x minus 6y equals 4. The bottom one becomes negative 15x plus 6y equals positive 108? Yeah. Okay, so now we're able to check out our modified system to be able to combine the lines, to cancel out the y's, get minus 14x equals 112, yeah? So hopefully if I divide by negative 14 and divide by negative 14, we get a nice whole answer. Does anybody have a calculator? X equals, so X equals negative 8. Now you still need the Y value. So once you have the X, all you have to do is plug it back into any of the original to find the Y. So I'm going to plug it into the top equation. I'm going to take the negative 8 and plug it in right here for X. So I'm going to write it down here. 4 equals, instead of X, I'm going to put negative 8 and then minus 6Y. And then, of course, let's get rid of that negative 8 by adding 8 to both sides. So if you add 8 to both sides, you'll have 12 equals negative 6Y, which means that if you divide both sides by negative 6, you get Y equals negative 2. Y equals negative 2. So we have our X value and our Y value. The answer as a coordinate will be negative 8, comma, negative 2. So that really ended up being a lot more work than what I expected. It might have been a good idea to just get a letter by itself. Like maybe the bottom equation, if you divided everything by, oh no, that wouldn't work, you get a fraction. You could divide everything by 2 and then substitute it, or you could have just added 6y, then you'd have X equals 6y plus 4, and you could substitute that 6y plus 4 into this X and solve for Y. So, I mean, either way is good, but I think maybe substitution would have been a little easier, but we still got the right answer here. Number 16 is a fun one. Has some crazy numbers, kind of like the midterm. And it says write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. But in order for you to write it in y equals mx plus b, you need to know your slope and you need to know your b value. Now, they don't give you the slope, they don't give you the b value, but they do give you 2 points. And those 2 points are really x values and y values. And what's the only thing that you could do with x values and y values? You could find the slope using the slope formula, labeling the x1, y1 from your first point, x2, y2 from your second point, and knowing your formula. So there's your slope formula, and I wrote it in different colors so you could remember to do the division bar and the subtractions first. That's the best way to use the slope formula to apply it. So y2 goes up here in the top left right here, and y2 is 43. So you have 43 up on top. Take away y1, which is negative 37. And the x2 happens to be negative 8, and x1 happens to be 2. So up on top, you could change the minus to a plus plus, and if you add 43 plus 37, you get 80 up on top, and on the bottom, negative 10. So this means that the m value is really, what is 80 divided by negative 10? Negative 8. So ladies and gentlemen, we have found the m value. That's barely half of what we need to write our equation in slope-intercept form. We just wrote, or we found out that m was negative 8. Now, you need to find the b value. Since you know your m value, which is negative 8, you could use the point up here and the slope that you just found to write it in point-slope form and then change it to slope-intercept, but I think we did that before. So let's use y equals mx plus b this time. And instead of y equals mx plus b, instead of the y, I'm going to use this y value, which is negative 37. So I'm going to go negative 37 equals m. We just found out that m was negative 8. X plus b. Your x value is 2, and the plus b is way at the end, which you don't know. So what am I doing here? I'm using the m I just found and my x and y to plug in to x and y so I could solve for b. So when you multiply negative 8 times 2, you get negative 16. Let's continue solving. You can go plus 16, plus 16. You get negative 21 equals b. So your b value is negative 21, and now you have enough info to write your y equals mx plus b because you have your m and your b. So it would be y equals mx, negative 8x, minus 21. You could put plus negative 21, but minus 21 is nicer.